I'm here today with Dr. David Wolfe, Senior Researcher at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health and the Director of the Center for Prevention Science and Professor of Psychology and Psychiatry at the University of Toronto. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
And we are going to be discussing risky teen behavior. So my first question is, what sorts of risky behaviors do teens typically engage in?
The most common ones and the most normative ones would be substance use. They're going to start drinking, testing out alcohol as young as 11 or 12, but certainly by 14 or 15, most of them will. They'll be engaging in some kind of sexual activity in that age range between 12 and 14. That's risky because of many different reasons. And then along with that, they're at risk of abusive behavior, violent behavior in their relationships with others. Some delinquent behavior in terms of shoplifting and such is also a concern. But the big three are the sexual relations, violence and abuse, and substance use.
And as a parent, how would I be able to differentiate between kind of normal experimentation and problematic risky teen behavior?
Well, as a parent, your goal is to keep them safe, allow some experimentation within limits. And I know that that's very vague and difficult for parents to get because what do you mean by some? And they will experiment whether you like it or not. So the question is, how do you control that? And basically, by the time they're 12 in grade 7 or so, they shouldn't really be experimenting with any of those things at that point. So it's a message of someday or eventually and defer. And then in grades 8 and 9, you're going to let them have more time with other friends, but not to go to unsupervised parties. It's very important that parents keep an eye on that. If the kid thinks that you're not paying attention, they will take advantage of it, and they'll tell you, I'm at Ed's, and I'm over at Bill's, drinking. And the problem is, if there's no supervision, they will do things that they shouldn't be doing. So the message is to keep them safe. You want them to go to parties. They're too young to start drinking. By the time they're in grade 10 tends to be, I think, one of the more dangerous times. That's when the kids get into more fights, they get into more sexual assaults and more heavy drinking. And that's when the parents really need to have curfews and limits and monitoring and rules. And also the advice is, I will let you do more as long as you don't break the rules and you keep safe. Then you have more freedoms.
And what if, as a parent, I feel that I can't control my teen's risky behavior? What sort of programs are out there that have been shown to be successful to help with those behaviors?
If your teen is crossing the line and you feel that you're now starting to get into yelling at them and they're hiding everything from you, or you're concerned that they really are abusing drugs and being caught at school and all those types of things, then you do need to get help. The first step is generally to talk to the school because they know what's available, they know your kid well, and hopefully they'll be a resource to you. But if you're not comfortable with that or don't get what you need there, then you should talk to your family doctor, or talk to a counselor that you might know, someone in your church that you might know. There's a lot of people in our communities that know what resources are available. The biggest struggle will be that your child may not want to go to any of those programs. So you may want to start with something that they are willing to do, something that isn't focused on their problems, but it's focused on connecting them with other kids that are not doing bad stuff. So you just have to keep trying. Some kids will be much more difficult than others, absolutely, but you have to avoid getting into the dead end of just chasing after them and trying to stop them from doing these things. Instead, you've got to step back and let someone else help.
And what sort of components or what kinds of things should I be looking for in these different programs?
For youth behavior programs, you should be looking for, I think, programs that help youth connect with each other. Not a one-to-one unless they are having serious mental health issues or addiction problems. Most of the programs for youth involve kids trying to learn from each other. Not a lot of troubled kids together, that can be a problem, but kids with various degrees of needs or just average kids in after-school programs and that to learn about how to have healthy relationships, how to manage some of the risk behaviors that their peers and them are starting to do, recognizing their own limits and values. Those are the types of things I like or would recommend. And if they're showing more serious problems with symptoms of mental health and problems like that, then you need to have it monitored by a professional.
And as a parent, would I have a role in these programs, or would it mostly be with other youth?
A lot of the programs for more difficult youth have a role for the parent. In fact, treatment programs, and we're talking now about treatment as opposed to prevention, typically are more successful when they have parent and family involvement, such as multisystemic therapy. It really wants the family involved. It's not just a youth problem. Kids don't do this totally on their own. So all parents need some information. So no matter what the program is, as a parent, don't just think, okay, he's getting help, I can back off. You may have to stop doing some of the bad things that you may be doing to make it worse. So you need to learn from the program. A lot of these programs have parent components, to come in and learn from other parents about it, talk about your feelings about it, and learn how to manage that behavior better. Don't just assume that the child will be fixed and come home a new kid. That'll never happen. It's a process, you have to work at it with them.
Great. And are there any strategies that I should avoid as a parent?
Many. Many. When you talk down to kids, they won't listen. If you only tell them what trouble they'll get into and all the negative consequences, they will learn simply to avoid you. You'll become unimportant. They'll become very good at going around you. Kids are very good at what they do. They're smart enough to know your schedule, your plans, your friends, and how to trick you. So you don't want that kind of relationship with your kids. You want a trusting relationship. So avoid the messages of, if I ever catch you, then this will happen to you. And instead, instill the notion that I care about your safety. I care about what happens when you're around other friends, so I'm going to make sure you're safe. If you keep telling me the truth, then you get more privileges. And if you lie about things, you'll get fewer and more restrictions. And I know that kids experiment. It's a message it's okay to say. I know it's okay that eventually you will become an adult and you will drink and you will have sex and so forth. All those things are eventually going to happen, and it's as they're happening right now, it's important that you take it at a slower pace and keep safe in doing it. So.
Is there anything else you think parents should know about risky teen behavior?
I think in general the parents should know about normal teen behavior, and that risky teen behavior comes about when the parents often don't help guide them through some of these. So just like when your child was an infant, you had to learn about raising an infant and proper care of a young child. You also have to learn the proper care of an adolescent, and you can't just start then. Hopefully you started earlier with these lessons, but if you're running into these difficulties or hanging out with the wrong kids, getting into whatever trouble, it can be reversed and helped. The message is always that learn what you can do about what their needs are, as opposed to just trying to get them to change. Take that responsibility to understand what they're going through and how to help them with it, as opposed to punish them for it.
Yeah, well, great. Thank you so much for sharing all of that wonderful information with us today.
Thank you.